How's it going, guys? It's WTS Weather here, and today I'm going to be updating you guys on Hurricane Ernesto that's currently churning out in the open waters of the Atlantic. So here's Ernesto here, looking at satellite imagery. We see a big swath of dry air. You see those big kind of moats within the convection. We see big areas of convection, and then we see moats within the convection, which indicates that there's a lot of dry air within Ernesto here, and that's really what's been preventing it from rapidly intensifying over the past couple of days, and what's really been preventing it from even strengthening up significantly like we expected here. And we do see some convection over the center here, and but again, this is just the classic look of a hurricane with dry air wrapping the center. And Ernesto is gonna, I think, spend majority of today fighting off that dry air. I do believe we will see some strengthening later tonight. Again, we will see that strengthening process resume. But for right now, Ernesto's fighting off this dry air. So here's a better look at our dry air. Again, we can see this gyre more clearly. It's really infiltrating deep within the core. What we're going to see all throughout today is just Ernesto dealing with this dry air, and for the majority of its lifespan, really just dealing with dry air. And once it can really fight off this dry air, we may see some strengthening again later tonight into tomorrow morning. I don't think we're going to see any sort of rapid intensification anymore. I think that window has officially closed at this point in time. I don't think we're going to even see really some significant strengthening. I really think the ceiling for this storm at this point is a Category 3 hurricane. I think a window for Category 4 or even strong Category 3 has officially closed here. So here's our recent scatterometer pass. What this is showing us is that the eye wall isn't completely closed. We can't really see strengthening. Um, we can't really see any further strengthening until that eye wall closes. And again, something that this tells us is that the majority of our energy is on the western side of the storm. So, unfortunately for Bermuda, all of this is what it's going to be dealing with here, according to the NHC. All of this energy is what it's going to be dealing with here. Dry air just wrapping its way throughout the system. We see all of this dry air. Here's the cone from the NHC. Currently, we're working with 85-mile-an-hour hurricane, Category 1, and it's slowed down significantly here to 13 miles an hour north. And again, Bermuda is well within the cone. Now, the storm should be expected to be approaching the area around early morning Saturday. Bermuda is within a hurricane warning now. Is that you see that red outline? That's a hurricane warning for all of Bermuda. And again, the storm passing on the east side of Bermuda is really not what we wanted to see. If we really wanted to see the storm track on the east side of the cone, but a more western track is really not what we wanted to see in this scenario. At this point in time, a landfall in Bermuda does appear to be unlikely. Here's our storm force wind speed probabilities. So Bermuda is well within that 100% area of storm force winds. At this point in time, it appears very likely that Bermuda is going to be impacted by a large and powerful hurricane sometime within the next couple of days. And again, it's pretty much set in stone at this point. If you live in Bermuda, all preparations should be completed at this point in time. And if they are not, then they should really be quickly completed, as the conditions are going to start deteriorating on the island very quickly here. And now we also have to take a look at Canada, as some of the Atlantic Canada areas are dealing with some tropical storm force wind speed probabilities around 40. Some areas even getting up into 40 or 50% of tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, and that's something we're gonna have to deal with going forward here. Here's our hurricane force wind speed probabilities. Bermuda again within that 50%, 50 to 60% chance of hurricane force wind speeds, and again, Atlantic Canada is going to have to start preparing for this storm, as we are seeing some 5 to 10% chances of hurricane force wind speed probabilities. So here's our European ensembles. What these ensembles at this point are telling us is that it's basically set in stone that a large and powerful hurricane will be impacting Bermuda within the next couple of days here. And basically all the models have agreed on that at this point in time. And next, again, majority of the models do take the storm quite close to Canada here. And that's something that we're going to have to turn our attention to. And here's our GFS models. And now the GFS ensemble does show a little bit of a further east track, which is something that we do like to see here, because an eastern track again would result in less damages for Bermuda and less of an impact for Bermuda. So the GFS does show more of an eastern track. So here's our European model now, and here we're working with a 985 hurricane on around this time. So the European model has already initialized Ernesto as a little bit weaker than what it currently is. So just keep that in mind as we move forward here. And the European model does take Ernesto down quite quickly this evening down to 978 millibar hurricane, which it already is. Again, I would expect to see some strengthening tonight into this evening. However, I think the window for rapid intensification has officially closed at this point in time. And I do think the window for a Category 4 storm has officially closed at this time. Into tomorrow, it should start to level off a little bit. We should see Ernesto level off as that dry air really starts to infiltrate it. And again, as we see some of the sea surface temperatures cool down, Ernesto is going to start to level off here tomorrow. So I think it really has just the next 12 to 24 hours to strengthen. After that, we're just gonna see instead of strengthening, we're just gonna see Ernesto just get bigger as it approaches Bermuda. As now we're seeing a 971 millibar hurricane on the morning of Saturday, August 17th, impact Bermuda. We're seeing Bermuda within the eyeball here of the storm. And again, we're just gonna see the storm slow down as it approaches Bermuda. As now this is the evening of Saturday into Sunday. We're seeing a very strong eyewall over the area of Bermuda here with some very strong winds and heavy rainfall. So here's our rainfall from the European model. This is the total rainfall prediction. So basically, what we're looking at here is the rainfall is going to start quite early for Bermuda. You guys are already going to be dealing with some very saturated grounds. We should see a solid 2 to 3 inches over the next couple of days, over the next day or two. And as the storm approaches, you're going to see those rainfall amounts just skyrocket. Here, the European model does luckily take some of that heavier rainfall just offshore of Bermuda. We see some rainfall amounts well over 12 inches, approaching maybe even 20 inches or higher just off the coast of Bermuda. And again, that's a difference of like maybe a couple of miles. So that rainfall can very easily shift to the east just a couple of miles, and Bermuda can end up with some rainfall well over 12 inches. And again, that can cause some very significant flash flooding issues. So here's our wave heights, and I do like to show this just to make sure everyone's aware about the conditions that are going to be in place over the next couple of days and really over the next week or so. So here's Ernesto right now churning up some massive waves out in the Atlantic, some waves reaching into the 30s, 30 feet tall here. And now as we move into Friday, we're going to really start to see conditions along the eastern seaboard, along beaches on the eastern seaboard. The conditions are really going to start to deteriorate here as these waves get pushed closer to shore. And now this is a Saturday morning. Conditions are only going to get worse. We're seeing waves reaching into the 5 to 10 foot area, pushing against the eastern seaboard and against these beaches. All along the eastern seaboard, the entire eastern seaboard is going to be seeing some very dangerous surfs and some very life threatening rip currents here as Ernesto gets closer and as those waves get pushed towards the shore. And now we also have to take a look at Bermuda. Look at these waves. These waves on the south side of Bermuda are going to be approaching 30 to potentially even higher than 40 feet. And now, again, the Northeast is really going to have to deal with some quite strong, quite significant waves as we get closer to this storm. And again, these waves are going to be reaching up into the 5 to 10 foot area on these beaches. So here's our humidity levels in the Atlantic. I already did mention it, but again, there's a ton of dry air. We see these browns surrounding the storm. That's just dry air, and usually hurricanes are a complete bubble of just moisture. However, we're seeing that dry air really work its way. We're seeing that these browns and this dry air really work its way into the system, and Ernesto is really eating up all this dry air right now, which has been causing it to really level off in terms of strengthening this morning. And again, I do think there should be a little bit of a window here overnight, tonight into the morning hours where we do see a little bit more favorable conditions in terms of dry air for Ernesto to strengthen, and that's why I do believe we should see some sort of strengthening overnight. Nothing too significant, but again, as it moves further north, this dry air just is going to completely level off the storm. We see this level of dry air is just absolutely significant here. There's no way a hurricane can strengthen given these conditions. All it can really hope to do is just fight off this dry air and maintain. And again, we're going to see this trend just continue. And that's why the eastern side of the system is really not going to be as intense as the western side of the storm, because the eastern side is going to be dealing with that dry air. So here's our sea surface temperature anomalies. I do always like to show these just to make sure people are aware that this storm is going to be working with above average sea surface temperatures all throughout its lifespan here. And again, I don't think sea surface temperatures should really be too much of a concern in terms of strengthening. I do believe that this storm has plenty of fuel to strengthen up into a powerful hurricane here. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today. And again, if you are in Bermuda and you haven't already completed your preparations for the storm, you really are running out of time here. And again, just to sum up my thoughts, I do think we should see some small strengthening tonight. However, I don't think we're gonna see anything too crazy for the rest of the storm's lifespan. Here, I think that window has officially closed in terms of rapid intensification. Um, but anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today. I will most certainly be making an update tomorrow, and I do quickly before I head out, I want to say thank you guys for the love that I've been getting on my winter forecast for this year. That video has done extremely well. I want to say thank you guys for that. And anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for today, guys.